Hi friends, my name is Pavel Reyes-Mercado. I am professor at Universidad Anáhuac, Mexico Norte, and I will speak today about my paper which is titled A Readiness Index for Marketing Analytics, a resource-based view conceptualization for the implementation stage. Okay, I will briefly introduce to the topic and then I will review relevant literature and then I will determine the relationships between construct and I will propose a research framework. I will discuss this research framework in reference to managerial implications and theory development, and I will conclude with some limitations and future research. Okay, as a background for this research, I'd like to tell you that value is realized once data is properly processed and firms develop and activate consumers and customers' insights to make decisions. And this research is also important because managers need to trust in sound frameworks that enable them to assess their key assets, how to exploit them, and how to allocate resources into the overall marketing dimensions. As a context for this research, marketing technology has evolved from basic applications of database marketing to better understand the cognitive and behavioral patterns of consumers to novel applications of market research as automated online review analysis. So this paper has two objectives. One is to analyze the marketing analytic function in reference to the VREIO attributes, which I will discuss shortly. And number two, to develop a conceptual model to measure how ready organizations are to implement the marketing analytics function. For purposes of this paper, I will define marketing analytics as all kinds of data analytics involving consumers and customers with information gathered from primary and secondary sources that comes from market research and transactional activity at the customer level. So regarding literature review, I took resource-based view of the firm as the core theory to develop my research framework. This theory was developed under the assumption that internal resources and capabilities explain the profits of the firm. These resources are heterogeneously distributed across firms in a given industry, and they lead not only to a competitive advantage, that is a strategy only implemented by an incumbent, but these resources also lead to a sustained competitive advantage. That is a strategy that competitors are unable to imitate. I also took as a core concept for my research framework the concept of market orientation. The marketing orientation includes three main dimensions. One of them is customer focus, another one is coordinated efforts of marketing, and finally, include also the profitability. All these three dimensions are reached through intelligence generation, intelligence dissemination, and responsiveness. So, my first research proposal can be framed as a higher level of market orientation of the firm is related to higher marketing analytics as a buyer EIO resource. Now, regarding this BRIO framework, this framework analyzes four main dimensions of a key asset or resource of the firm. The first dimension is how valuable a resource is. That is, how a key resource enables the firm to develop and implement strategies based on lower costs or increasing revenues. So I propose that value of marketing analytics implementation is positively related to its competitive advantage. The second dimension is rareness. A rare resource is a resource that is implemented by a small number of competitors in a given market. So, the rareness of a marketing analytics implementation is positively related to its competitive advantage. The third dimension of a key resource of the firm is how imitable is by competitors. So, an imperfectly imitable resource is costly to implement or imitate by competitors. So I propose that imperfect imitability of marketing analytics implementation is positively related to its competitive advantage. And finally, the fourth dimension is the organization. That is, how organizational policies, procedures, skills, and capabilities enable an efficient exploitation of the resource. So, derived from this dimension, I propose that the organization dimension of marketing analytics implementation is positively related to its competitive advantage. And I propose that the marketing analytics is an organizational resource that generates a sustained competitive advantage. So I finally propose that marketing implementation is positively related to a higher firm performance. The previous discussion can be summarized in this research model. This research model shows the antecedent of the marketing analytic function as a focal construct, and also the consequences of implementing the marketing analytics function, which is firm performance. So, in terms of antecedents, is market orientation strategy, which involves intelligence generation. That is, the generation of knowledge and derived from data collected through primary and secondary information. Also, this strategy depends on intelligence dissemination. That is, to share the generated intelligence to the relevant internal and external stakeholders. And finally, this orientation, market orientation, is based on responsiveness. That is, how able is the firm to act on the data and intelligence gathered. This leads to the focal construct that for marketing analytics, which I have discussed in terms of valuability, rareness, inimitability, and organizational resource. So, as a consequence of implementing the marketing analytic function, the firm performance is enhanced. So this performance can be measured in terms of sustained competitive advantage, customer focus, coordinated marketing efforts, and profitability. Now, in order to test this research framework, there is a number of techniques to test it and analyze it. One of them is linear regression. Linear regression would allow to measure the individual impacts of one variable over another. Another choice might be the use of structural equations, which may allow to measure the simultaneous relationship among all the variables in the model. Also, the measurement items should be developed from a formative perspective. This perspective will allow the model to become a predictive tool that will enable the managers to know how ready a firm is to implement the marketing analytics function. As an alternative modeling, there is an opportunity to consider the resource-based view construct as higher order construct with resources, attributes, valuable, rareness, imperfect, immutability, and organizations as lower order components. This would allow to decrease the sample sizes requirements. Now, there are implications for theory development. This paper has contributed to the existing literature on resource-based view of the firm from the perspective of marketing by including the core aspects of the theory and develops a specific framework to assess the features of the analytics function as a strategic resource that impacts firm performance. And also, how managers can benefit from this research in a couple of ways. One of them is that managers can generate a roadmap to plan the implementation of the marketing analytics function. And the second one is that managers can vary the emphasis and sequences of the different dimensions of the implementation stage of marketing analytics function. And to conclude with my presentation, this paper has some limitations. One of them is that this model has only considered the VRIO variables into the research model for parsimony purposes, in spite of many other variables that may also impact the firm performance. And there is at least two ways to develop future research. One of them is to develop a qualitative stage focused on refining the readiness index variables, and another future research may focus on testing the model using quantitative data. And that's it, my presentation for today. Thank you very much for attending my presentation, and below is my email, and I will be happy to hear from you. Thank you very much.